Welcome to Season 2 of the Shop Stool Podcast, a podcast for woodworkers and the maker community in general. With Joey Chalk from King Post Timberworks, Bryan Cush from Sawdust Bureau, and Robin Lewis from RobinLewisMakes. Hi everyone, I hope you're all very well. This is episode 22, Season 2 of the Shop Stool Podcast. As always, I want to start by introducing my two co-hosts. Joey, how are you today?
Yeah, good, Robin. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. And Bryan, how are you?
I'm excellent, Roland. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. And my name is Robin Lewis. Welcome to the show, everyone. So today we've got another guest on the show. Well, in fact, it's actually two, all the way from Bloomington, Indiana, in the US. They've been in the furniture making business since 2012. Between the two of them, there's enough design and manufacturing skill to start a small army. And the products that they're putting out are pretty spectacular. So a very big welcome to Audi and Ivy from Siosi. Thanks very much for being on the show today. How are you both?
We're great. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, cool. So we were very interested to hear your story. Bryan put us in, joined all the dots for all of us to come together to sort of hear how you got started and everything that's led up to this point. So I guess that's a good place for us to start. So for anyone who doesn't know you, I mean, you have a huge following on Instagram. Your website's fantastic. Plenty of products. But for anyone who doesn't know you, how did you guys get started and get to this point?
All right. Do you want me to start?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, here we go. I started an MFA program in Bloomington, Indiana in 2009, right? 2009?
Yes.
And then Ivy and I met in 2010, and I finished the program in 2012. So after going through grad school, I have an MFA in photography, and I was like, you know what? Academia isn't really it's not really my passion. Teaching isn't my passion. And we didn't really want to do the whole adjunct professor thing where we'd spend a year in Alabama and then Ivy's just stuck kind of following me everywhere for sort of tricky jobs, to maintain. So we thought about something that maybe we could collaborate on because we both have backgrounds in art and thought maybe starting a business would be a really great next step.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I took a woodworking course in grad school, so that's how much experience I had. It was like a 8-week course where you make one thing. I made myself a little dining table, and then
I think it's worth mentioning too that Audi's thesis show, we made all the frames for that, and that's sort of how we started our tool collection. It was an excuse to buy some just basic at-home shop kind of tools. A couple drills, a chop saw, and then we used a buddy's table saw to make those frames. And it worked out really well. We worked pretty seamlessly together on that, and the frames turned out great. They're really odd sizes, so they were panoramics, and probably most of them are on the scale of 6 feet by a foot, or
so they had to be custom, and that was important to us. And so we worked really well together, and we were like, maybe there's something here. We both like working with our hands, and making art is a requirement. So how can we turn that into a business?
Yeah, and it actually started where we thought maybe we would start a fabrication business, more along the lines of exhibitions and kind of helping artists see through their visions. And then we realized that our artist egos are too big to help someone else, so we thought we'd see our own venture through.
So, Audi, you've kind of explained the woodworking part where you had some small amount of training. Ivy, from what I can gather, you are the metal worker.
Yes.
And so did that come before or after did you have some experience in metalworking, or did you just decide we need to be able to weld some stuff?
No, I have experience in it. when I was in college, I was studying sculpture and had kind of taken it upon myself to learn welding for those purposes. So really messy, just metal gluing stuff together. And then after college and after living for a while, I went back to trade school for classic automotive restoration. And that's where I honed my welding skills and metalworking skills. And yeah, it turned out useful.
I guess there'd be a massive design element in that as well. That
Oh,
sort of,
yeah.
from an automotive perspective, was it for a course like that, are you restoring towards something, or are you given a lot of creative license? Are you taught to consider design in your process?
Yeah, there was both actually involved in that course. And I think just the appreciation for cars and the work that's gone into the classic cars. So we never worked on anything, I'd say, younger than the 70s. So really nice classic vehicles. And there's just so much appreciation for times past metalworking.
But she also, during that coursework, she reupholstered her car seats too. She did like denim and white vinyl.
Oh, wow.
Like, it sounds like a little weird, but it was really beautiful. Like, it was so nicely done.
Yeah,
the
classy.
combo was incredible.
So you can do woodwork, metalwork, and upholster.
Yeah.
Like, the list goes on. She can
That's the trifecta
home
right
building, trim work in houses. Like, seriously, anything. She has a brain where, like, she just has the ability to do a bit of research and figure it out. That's just how Ivy works. So she's pretty important to this team.
So you guys don't outsource any of your process at all, your finishing or anything. It's all done in-house.
Powder coating.
Powder coating is one thing.
Powder coating, yeah.
And then occasionally we need some metal bent, like, in a kind of an intense way. And so, yeah.
Every once in a while, we'll hire some muscle to help us move a big,
Yeah, I'm so tired of lifting
move a big
stuff.
thing somewhere.
But, yeah.
Some of those slab tables that you guys do must weigh pretty close to a ton, right?
Yeah, they're massive.
About a couple of years ago, we bought a lift, like an electric hoist in the shop, and that just has been saving our bodies. We used to have like shoulder injuries all the time, and it was way too much, and that hoist has been a really great addition.
Do you use that to also flip the tables as well, like while you're working?
Yeah.
Okay,
It's the
that's
flipping that gets you.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've thought about doing something similar. With my beams up top of me yet to get
Yeah,
around.
because you got some nice rafters up there, Brian. I can see them, yeah.
Yeah.
One day.
What size workshop have you girls got?
It's the one that we have right now. We're planning on building one. We should break ground early June. And that'll be 3,500 square feet. But the one we're in now it's a bit spread out and big for us. It's 4,550 square feet.
It's actually too big, but it's difficult to find like light industrial spaces in Bloomington.
I think it's something around the world we've talked about before, and I think myself and Brian are both incredibly lucky to have workshops that are about the right size. My one comes out at, I think, an American speak, what's that, 2,000 square feet. So it's right in that kind of mid-decent size range. But there's almost nothing that size around.
So 4,500 square feet is about 400 square meters. Is that right?
Yeah. Yep. That's
Very nice.
That's huge.
It just
And
means
is
you
that-
collect more shit.
Yeah, very
And
true.
it's just a big box. There's no charm. Brian's shop is a dream.
Yeah.
It hasn't got too much charm this morning. It's about 4 degrees. It's freezing. Well, I'm sure you guys get bigger extremes there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a single person out there who would argue about a shop too big. So yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds pretty exciting. And it's amazing how quickly you just grow out of it. My shop is 9 meters by 6 meters. So, Joey, you're going to help me out with the math there?
Nope, I can't do that size.
And when I moved everything in here, I thought, this is huge. This is more than enough space. I'm never going to... This is a home workshop. And it took me 2 years, and I'm starting to feel the pinch now. You know, I'm having to reorganize, and I think it's just you're just always chasing your tail with it.
Definitely. And it also, we have woodworking is the majority of it, and then we have a photo studio and a metal studio. So it's sort of in this
quadrant, kind of big open space in the middle to move things around. But yeah, we're very lucky to have the amount of room that we have. And there's 9 motorcycles in there as well, and
Right.
Is that the stuff you were talking about collecting with all that space?
yeah. That's my vice.
Not that that's shit, but a couple of them might be.
A couple of them are total shit.
So, Bryan, where did you? How did the meet happen? How do all three of you know each other?
It happened through Like Butter, who are a Melbourne furniture company. I think they've just relocated up to Country Victoria, but they used to be my landlords. I don't know how they got in touch with you. Probably just through Instagram, like a random connection through there. And the girls were visiting Australia, and they wanted to come see the shop. So I don't know. They just dropped in, and we hung out for an afternoon.
So you've actually seen Bryan's shop in person?
Yes.
Yeah, they came out on a lovely summer's day. It was
beautiful.
Yeah. It honestly always looks like that. Yeah. But yeah, it's one of my favorite things when I go traveling, to sort of drop in and see other makers' setups as well. So when people come this way, I always like to open it up for them. But yeah, I've always really enjoyed hearing different perspectives on woodwork as well, and I think meeting women who are in the industry is a really important thing. And I think you guys are probably our first female guests on the show.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. I've always had female interns working in my shop, so yeah. I don't know. It gives a different vibe, and you get different approaches to work, and yeah. So I don't know. I just thought it might be interesting to have you guys on the show. Like, we've never really had that many people from a fine arts background. I think we've either had trade backgrounds or engineering backgrounds. We had Neil from South Carolina, who's product design engineering, and yeah, I've always really liked the way you guys do contemporary work, but it's in an aesthetic that especially an American audience can understand. You know, like slab furniture in Australia is not really a big thing. It sort of died out a bit, and it felt a little bit pastiche-y. And in America, it's still huge, but you guys have found a way to do it in a really modern and contemporary way that I absolutely love. The way you photograph your work and brand it, I think, is really unique.
I'm really interested to hear how you went from moderate woodwork training and knowledge, I suppose, and then you go to taking, presumably you're taking orders from clients at some point, and what that step that really, I remember when I first kind of said I'm a furniture maker, that I was super nervous because I didn't know how to actually make everything. I had no idea. And how did you go from like, oh my God, people are taking money or paying money, and we have to provide them with a thing that we've never made before?
Yeah, that's exactly how we started. I mean,
we just figured it out.
One of our very first projects in our first shop, that was it was like 300 square feet, very small, in this huge old warehouse. But anyway, one of our very first projects was a 10 by 5 conference table. And we just kind of smiled and nodded and
like, yeah, sure, that
took the money
great.
And bought the timber and went at it.
Was that a slab piece, or was that?
No, it was
okay.
And at the time, we were buying kiln-dried lumber from Mickey, which was this old guy, half hour out of town. So we would drive to Mickey, just whatever he had is the only choice we had, but he only charged like $1 a board foot.
for anything.
For anything. Didn't I mean, he would maybe charge a little bit more for walnut, but
That's crazy.
yeah.
But
And so we would just load up the truck.
Yeah, we'd spend all day digging through these piles because they were literally piles. I mean, I think maybe some things were stickered, but we were just dealing with these wonky boards. We didn't even have a joiner, so we were joining everything on the table saw with a jig. I mean, it was a nightmare, but I think it made us really good at woodworking.
I bet.
Yeah.
It means that you're constantly problem solving right from the start,
Yeah,
rather than having
we
all
were.
the machinery and then not knowing how to approach things from a different perspective. Yeah, I think it's really vital that people learn like that.
The conference table still stands.
It's still
So
there. Still,
I think it's fine.
still looks great.
Yeah. I have no clue how we made that glue up work.
I don't either.
But we did. We did, It's like kind of you look back on something and you're like, I have no idea how we did that given the circumstances, but it works out.
Yeah, and it's a really interesting question because we have a lot of people listening to the show who are in that transition phase. They've either just gone through it or they're looking to do it. And it's that step. We've talked about it so many times on the show before. What is that step? Is it a mental step from I'm doing this as a hobby to now I'm doing it as a job? Or is it something that's very much based on luck? I mean, that first job of yours, how did you go about? Did that fall into your lap or did you actively go after it?
It fell into our lap. There's a local record label in town, and they have a couple of offices in town, and it's mostly the guys that are in charge of it.
They're old friends with my sister,
Yeah,
so they're like old buddies and
a little bit older than us, just in their 40s, and I think they were just so excited about what we were trying and doing, and they trusted us right off the bat.
I think they also saw it as an opportunity to have these custom-made desks for probably like much less money than they would normally
They knew
pay
what
someone.
they were doing.
We were just getting started. They understood that. We understood that, and so our prices were very reasonable. And but that really gave us a lot of momentum locally, but also just it sort of helped us build our portfolio as well, and that was extremely valuable at the time.
Yeah, I think that's the hardest thing. We've talked about it before is when you try and make that transition, how do you fill up your portfolio with things that you have done or know how to do? It's very hard to fill those blank spaces. And taking an opportunity like that a friend of a friend is something I've always talked a lot about, is ask friends of your friends of your friends, what can you make them for almost nothing, just so you have the chance to use your designing muscles and just come up with something.
Yeah.
And it's a good foot in the door just to get something to photograph.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'd like to add too that there's always like a little bit of luck, but mainly you have to, in my opinion, you have to love what you're doing. You have to be willing to work all the time, and you have to be willing to work a whole lot for very little money. And you have to be willing to do that for a long amount of time in order to kind of get over that hump and to be a little bit more comfortable.
To be able to face the next hump, because it is, it's
the
just,
ebb and flow. It's real. Yeah.
It's a roller coaster.
What was the timing between that first job and then the next one? Because obviously, those gaps get bigger. Well, should get smaller and smaller, but in the early days, they're really big.
Well, I mean, we sold stuff on Etsy at the time, and people would find our website. But I mean,
I think a lot of our success came from timing, which is a little different from luck, but not entirely different. But yeah, it was in a time when you could still sell on Etsy. It was easier for people to find you. Etsy now, we don't sell on Etsy anymore. It's become oversaturated with just regular goods. And then also,
there's still good stuff on Etsy, but
it's harder to find.
We were never great at like navigating we were never great at navigating that website and building the community within that website. I'll say that.
Right. But we also were early to Instagram, and we're able to really be around at the start of the woodworking community on Instagram, which is very supportive and encouraging. And it was still in a time when people were now looking to shop through Instagram as well. And after that, it's just branding, continuing business. That's a huge part of it, and that's where I'm so thankful for Audi, because she's much more the businesswoman than I am. I never know what time it is. I never look at my emails. I literally have one of those phones where it says I have, I think it's even stopped counting now, but I have over 5,000 unread emails.
And I can't stand that red.
I was just about to say
I'm at zero always.
Yeah.
Drives me nuts.
Don't even care.
That's crazy. I couldn't do that.
So
when it comes to the design of your pieces, are they all a collaboration, or are some of them like one of you or the other?
I'd say they're all a collaboration, because we both I usually need to be reeled in, and Audi usually, there's a good idea in there somewhere, but it's maybe not in the right vein or something, or you misheard something. So I like to hear a client talk about a need, and then I get ideas immediately. And I think Audi usually is so concerned with the business aspects of when we're meeting with a client, that the vision isn't quite as clear, but then she comes back with actually what needs to be addressed.
But it's not immediate. I need to sleep 3 nights. I'll wake up in the morning and I'll be like, okay, I think this is what they want. What do you think, Ivy? But that's custom work. As far as just coming up with a new piece, sometimes it's totally collaborative, and sometimes it's just something that I really want to make. But throughout the process, I will be asking Ivy how she feels about certain angles or materials or whatever. So it is all a collaboration, but sometimes one of us will take the lead on something.
Yeah. It's all really organic.
In that sense, you're quite lucky that you've always got someone there to bounce ideas off, who are in that same mind frame, because I think most furniture makers are guys by themselves in the workshop for most of the time, I certainly always find myself second guessing whether I should have made that decision or not, but it's too late and I've cut it and I don't have anyone to bounce the idea off. And having someone there would be such a big help.
Yeah, well, this video thing works really well. Our consultation fee is really reasonable, so.
That's brilliant.
I think it's one of the real positive things of Instagram is that it allows one person's shops to connect and get a little bit more critical feedback. Obviously, people aren't going to be massively critical on your feed, but I find that I'll message people directly to ask them questions, or if I've got some feedback for them. I think it is a really helpful thing that just helps you expand beyond just yourself banging a head against your workbench.
Yeah.
Can I ask you guys, do you have a favorite piece? Do each of you have a particular piece of yours that you think represents you really well that people can look up?
I think one of our most recent slab tables, it's the ground table. It's a walnut slab, and then the base is kind of more of a mid-century modern base, also in walnut. And I just think it's such a lovely,
pretty cool,
graceful piece. We're lucky enough that it's still in town, so we get to, and we love these people, so we still get to eat at it
Yeah, it has like these big beefy legs. It's this huge glue up, but then we tapered it down, and we do so much like hand shaping and hand grinding that this drives most woodworkers crazy. But each leg is slightly different. You know, it's like it's a little bit more organic. You know, and that's what we really like to do. We're not going for perfection. I would say we're going more for like finesse and like a feeling.
That's cool.
I think it depends on where you are in your woodworking journey, because I think a lot of us start with all four legs being different just by virtue of the fact that that's how it goes.
Absolutely.
Then you work out how to get it perfect, and then you decide that you don't want them perfect, and you go backwards, and you're like, no, I'll have a bit of variance in them.
That's where we are, right?
And Audie, how about you? Audie, what's your top?
I'm obsessed with milk stools. I want to make them all the time. Yeah, and each one is different because I can't follow a pattern at all, and I just love them. It's fun. I hand shape everything. I get real nerdy with all the details. It's just a good time.
So are you making like a traditional where the leg comes right through the top? So you've got 3 legs, and they're going right through the top. And so how are you going about drilling that angle? You know, everyone has different ways of having mirrors and lasers and things.
Yeah, I'm a little bit more organic with that kind of... Well, we use our drill press and set the angle up there.
Right.
And series of lines and like what is called geometry, but for me it's just using a compass, you know.
Yeah.
And then each one's a little different because I feel like I'm still trying to figure out that perfect angle, you know, for that piece that I will eventually make, you know, 100 of or whatever. But I think the last one got me pretty close with being happy with the angle. So
that's cool.
Yeah, at this point they're just like fun little projects. It doesn't make us money. It's just fun.
Talking about the slab tables, I wanted to ask about that critical mass dining table.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites.
With the legs, right? So I had a look at the way those legs work, and I can't figure out what's stopping that table from just falling over from racking.
Yeah.
How is that held in place?
maybe describe the legs, like what they are, and
that's probably
how
good.
they're made to people.
Sure. So we made a wood replica of what a mold
Pattern.
a pattern for what we want the legs to be, and then we had that cast in sand and then aluminum, and so they're all solid. They're solid. Oh wait, I love to say it in Australian. Aluminium. Aluminium.
Nailed it.
Bottle-o. We loved Australia so much. Oh, I can't wait to come back. But so yeah, it's cast in aluminum, and then there's certain holes in the underside that are drilled out in this little flange that comes out within the leg, and then it bites into the table on both sides by quite a bit. So there's a kind of a double mortise that comes in there and bites into it on both sides. And then...
So in order to work out like that mortise and that fastening tightness, we route out the top, you know, and then route out the bottom, and then it just slides in there just perfectly. And then there are a couple of screws that just make sure everything's nice and tight from the bottom that you don't see.
Yeah.
So it's like a Maloof joint on a Maloof.
A little bit.
Yeah.
a
That's
bit.
a great comparison. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
And
cool.
so the top is mortised in probably at least 3/4 of an inch.
About something like that.
And then the bulk is inside the mouth of the leg itself. And then the bottom is mortised in probably another at least...
1/4 of an inch. It's kind of shallow on the bottom.
Was it? I was thinking more of 1/2 an inch. But anyway, they're solid. I mean, and the legs themselves, you think aluminum might be a little bit lighter But each leg is probably about 20 pounds.
Yeah, no, when they're solid like that, they'd
Yeah.
be pretty hefty, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just such a great table. So it's really hard to explain this to everyone who's listening because it's
Right.
just the way it attaches. But if you get a chance, have a look at this table, because to me, just from the outside, it looks like you've got a slab sitting on 4 legs that the joinery was completely minimal, and it just looks fantastic the way it's been done.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. We'll have to take a picture of the underside flange.
I probably have some images
Yeah.
somewhere.
I think they might be on the website. Maybe if you people can
Right,
people can go
okay,
and have a
maybe I
look.
missed that one. Yeah, maybe I missed that particular one because I scanned through them and I just couldn't figure it out.
So as we've been talking, it's kind of really only just dawned on me that you're 2 female woodworker, designing people who are working in an almost entirely male industry, which is annoying. I guess there's 2 questions. How are you received? And do you find that there's a whole other clientele that would prefer working with you guys other than dirty old guys?
You guys aren't that bad.
Speak for yourself, Joy.
I'd say it's a 50-50 split down the middle for me. Sometimes I think because we're women, we're not given that automatic authority or just a place of confidence for people that because we're women, we must not know as much as the guy next to us. Right off the bat without knowing us at all, like if we walk into a hardware store or whatnot. And I'm sure that translates over to some of our customers.
It also doesn't help that Ivy looks like she's 15 years old.
What are you going to do?
Ivy's 5 feet tall and she looks like she's 16, but she's actually almost 37.
Yeah.
So there's that. But I think for the most part, it's sort of impossible to say if it's helped us or hurt us. I think I don't really know how to answer that. I think a lot of people, have that respect there and they're like, oh man, these ladies are really doing some interesting stuff. Yeah, it's kind of an impossible question. I wouldn't know how to really quantify it, but I think there is especially when we started, we still looked really young and we were still learning, and so, automatic respect wasn't necessarily there. But we've really worked for that respect, and so I think that's less of an issue now, without a doubt,
And I think it's changing, it's rapidly, it seems like women are gaining a lot more visibility within the field, and it's great. I mean,
yeah, we were a part of an all-women woodworking show in Philadelphia this past fall.
the first all women woodworking show since 1983, which is both of our birth years. So,
Wow.
it felt really, really amazing, and Mira Nakashima, George's daughter, had a piece in there, and it was an area that's really rich in wood and woodworking,
Mm-hmm.
also. So it just felt really special, and one of the curators is the dean of the College of the Redwoods, which is now the James Grinoff School in California. So it felt really nice to be included.
Felt very
in
powerful.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
it was
really
pretty
did.
cool. Yeah, really neat. So it's changing. There are so many women woodworkers around, and Instagram is helping that too,
We're also really lucky to live in Bloomington, which also is home to the great legend Nancy Hiller.
Yeah, she's a badass. Y'all should look. Do you guys know who that is?
No,
I don't.
haven't seen her work.
She's
Nancy Hiller.
Yeah.
Nancy Hiller, yeah.
She does more like period work. It's nuts.
Yeah,
Okay.
so...
Check it out. Yeah, she's super cool.
She
She's
studied-
still working, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she does a lot of writing for Fine Woodworking.
Oh,
Okay.
Well, all of the magazines really, and then she writes books too.
Yeah,
Like,
she's kind of a
total
prolific
badass.
author.
Wow.
Yeah,
And really classically trained. I think she trained in Oxford.
something like that. Unlike us, where we just like had no clue what the hell we were doing, but figured it out.
Wing it. Can I ask you, in terms of working in America, your work goes all across the States, or do you find that it's mainly to a local area, or is it going more to bigger cities, or like who's buying your work?
New York mainly.
New York?
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think that is? Was it through one particular job, or is it the type of marketing strategy you've employed?
Yeah, I think we've gained enough notoriety to where New Yorkers know about us, but we're still a really good bargain for them.
Which is kind of wild, but I think too, just like our style and who we are, I think a lot of people want to really think about who they're buying their work from. If they're going to spend $10,000, $20,000 on a piece or a few pieces, they want to make sure that they're buying from someone who they want to give their money to. And that's what Instagram really does for us, is it allows people to get to know us a little bit, and it's extremely valuable for us. And with my background in photography, it's totally second nature to me. It's just, I'd be doing it anyway. I have fun with it, and hopefully that comes through, and that's kind of what people are responding to.
I think you can definitely tell that you have fun with it.
Yeah,
Cool.
Good. I think the nature of our work as well, like it speaks to people who, they want a story sort of that goes along with their piece, and they want more of a personal connection with who they're buying it from, not just a store. And we definitely provide that. There's throughout the buying process, I'll say Audi mostly. I chime in on emails every once in a while.
But let's be real. I will communicate with someone for like a slab table. There can be 100 emails going back and forth by the time we finish and deliver. So we're really invested in who we're making work for. So and then those people become buddies. Like we have some local clients where we get to go see our slab tables all the time because we hang out for dinner all the time. Not right now, unfortunately. We miss them a lot.
Yeah.
But it's we got a cool thing going. I don't exactly understand how this all happened, as far as like the friendship thing and making it like really kind of personal. But that is what has happened.
Particularly with the slab tables, there's so much communication that goes back and forth, and by the time it's time to deliver, we really like to deliver in person. One, because we'd like to see that the piece gets there safe, and it's also just much more economical for us to deliver it ourselves. And by then we're really excited to meet these people, and they usually feed us.
Yeah, we always get a free meal.
Hey, don't never turn down a
Probably a beer too.
Given that there's always two of you in the workshop, are you working on one piece at a time? And you've got a lot of space, so you would think you've got multiple pieces on the go all the time, or how does that workflow kind of work for you guys?
We work on opposite sides of the shop most of the time.
On opposite jobs?
There's at any time, it's just like your workshops. I'm sure there's about 1,700 unfinished projects, two things in queue, 4 things on the back burner, a number of things that I'm doing that I shouldn't be doing.
That's a real issue.
Motorcycle work.
Yes. Yes.
But we work really differently, and we tend to gravitate towards different projects. So we get focused in on what we're doing, but there might be a point where like I've sort of had it with a project, and I'm like, all right, Ivy, will you just take over because I'm over it? And so that really comes in handy. It's pretty amazing to be able to do that, and we do that for each other.
Yeah.
To a degree.
it's also really nice to the inevitable mistakes that you make, and you just have had it. We'll fix each other's mistakes sometimes, so that's nice.
It's nice to have to deal with your own shit.
Yeah,
a little bit.
Can you just fix this, please?
It's quite strange. Just the whole dynamic is just so completely different. To the majority of our listeners, this is just something completely. And you both presumably.
I want somebody to fix my mistakes.
Right? It'd be nice to just come back to it and it's all looks great. Like whatever you did to it never happened.
And you both presumably get on quite well as well. There's no argy-bargy.
Only during glue-ups.
Yeah,
sometimes we've started to precede our glue-ups by saying, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I'm about to be an asshole to you.
That's funny.
Yeah.
But there's an understanding. It's okay.
Yeah.
That's
Cool. All right, I reckon we'll leave the show there because we've about hit the time. But yeah, thanks so much for coming on. It's always so interesting to hear the stories of how people progress from those early days forward. I know the majority of our listeners are so interested in that. And every person we interview has a very different and unique story. So it's just fascinating to hear.
Cool. And Bryan, I wanted to say, make sure I said, give our love and congrats to Viv for getting her own space. She looks great. She's doing good stuff.
Yeah, she's killing it at the minute.
That's awesome.
Also, congrats to you and your wife on the babe.
Thank you.
What a beauty. Yeah. Good job.
Bit of a life change, but
yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, cool guys. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing with us.
Yeah,
really
so
good.
much.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
So to everyone listening, I hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, please go ahead and give it a rating on iTunes. That really does help us out. The Shop Stool Podcast is available on iTunes and most other podcast apps. My name is Robin. Joe and Bryan, thanks very much for hanging out. Obviously, Audi and Ivy, thank you again for being on the show. Take care, everyone, and we will see you in the next one.
See ya.
See you guys.
Thanks again.